Welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 12, Arithmetic with Complex Numbers. Let's work with complex numbers. Again, our complex numbers. Is a real number plus an imaginary number. So it should look like this. One of them will not be there if the number is 0. Again, memorize these. In the last one, I gave you a way to look at this. So you have I to the 0 over here, I to the first power, I squared, and I cubed. We know that I to the 0 is 1 because this is the real number line horizontally. This is the square root of -1 because up and down is the imaginary number system. I squared is -1, I cubed is -I. And then you keep going around I to the 4th, I to the 5th, I to the 6th, and then I to the 7th. Okay, what does this path mean? This path means that the person went in the real number system, they went 2, then in the imaginary, they went 3i, then they went backwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They minus 8 in a real number line. And in the imaginary number line, we went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we subtracted 8i. Okay, now we know this diagram represents 2 plus 3i plus -8 minus 8i. And we kind of saw it when we counted the numbers in the warm-up. How do we see 2 plus 3i represented? Well, two plus 3i. 2 is this and 3i is that. So 2 plus 3i is that dot. How do I see -8 minus 8i? So I go over 8, and then I go down 8i, and I see that point represented by there. Okay, what complex number does A represent? So when we add complex numbers, what you have to do is add the real parts and add the imaginary parts. Put the real parts together. Two minus 8 is 6, -6, minus 5i. So if we count from the origin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is our answer. Write these sums and differences in the form of A plus BI. All right, so now, when you add complex numbers, put the real numbers together, put the imaginary numbers together, and we get 1 minus 3i is the answer. Okay, now for some more practice. We're going to come down. We're going to put the real numbers together. We're going to put remember the sign in front of the term goes with the term. -37 plus 11 is -26. -45 plus 81, or 81 minus 45. Let's see. Borrow from the 8, and you get 11 minus 5 is 6. 7 minus 4 is 3. -26 plus 36i. Now, let's be careful with our negatives. Whenever you see a negative outside a group, the first thing you want to do is distribute the negative. Might as well rewrite everything, but definitely rewrite the signs you just changed. Now, reals go together get negative 7 plus 7i. And then finally, distribute that negative all right, so now put the terms together. So you get negative 37 minus 11 plus negative 45i minus 81i gives us negative 48 minus 126i. Okay, draw the points to represent 2 to the first power. This is supposed to be to the first power. So 2 to the first power is 2. Then 2 squared is 4. Then 2 cubed is 8. And 2 to the fourth is 16. So this is 2 to the 1, 2 squared, 2 cubed, and 2 to the fourth. See how the gap is increasing between each number? Okay, write 2i. 2i is just 2i's, nothing else to it. 2i squared is 2i times 2i, which equals 4i squared. I squared is negative 1, so that's 4 times negative 1, which equals negative 4. Okay, for the next one, 2i cubed is 2i times 2i times 2i. 2 times 2 times 2, like we did in the previous problem, is 8. This is I cubed. Now, when you draw the little diagram, I to the 0, I to the first, I squared, I cubed. I cubed is equal to negative I. So we have I cubed as negative I times 8, which becomes negative 8I. And finally, 2i to the fourth is 2i times 2i times 2i times 2i, which is 16i to the fourth. And we know I to the fourth is in the same position as I to the 0, and that equals 1. So 16i to the fourth is just 16 times 1, which is 16. Okay, so if we had to plot these on a real number line, 2i is imaginary, purely, that's 2i. 2i squared was negative 4, which is right there. 2i cubed is negative 8i, which is down there. And 2i to the fourth is positive 16, which is over here. So if we were to connect the dots, we would get a little nautilus going where the circle just keeps growing. Like that. And you just keep going around the circle. This is why the first thing I tell you, I to the 0 is to the right because it's a real number, which is 1. I to the first is the square root of negative 1. I squared is negative 1. Horizontally, these are real numbers. I to the 0 and I squared are real numbers. I cubed equals negative I. These are imaginary. They don't mean anything. And I to the fourth, I to the fifth, I to the sixth, I to the seventh, and you just keep going around a circle infinitely.